My name is Dana. I'm sitting in my living room, the silence thick and heavy. The recent events have left me reeling, and I can't help but reflect on how everything went so wrong. It all came to a head on a fateful Sunday. Patricia, my mother-in-law, had arrived punctually at 9:55, dressed in a dove-gray blazer and carrying a Tupperware of brownies. She kissed my cheeks and stepped inside, and I let her in, my mind flashing back to the envelope I'd found in my husband's desk the other day. We sat in the living room, Patricia and my husband, Ethan, on the couch, and me in the chair across from them. Patricia opened the conversation well, as she always did. She said she understood my hesitation and used the word family 4 times in just 3 minutes. She subtly folded herself and Ethan into a unit that seemed to overshadow the marriage Ethan and I had built over the years. I let her finish, and then I spoke very quietly. Patricia, before we discuss the loan, I'd like to ask about a few other things. Something shifted in her eyes, a very small, very controlled movement. Of course, she said. I took a deep breath and laid it all out. The 6 transfers from our joint account to an account in your name, the 3 transfers to Lily, the home equity application submitted in my name against an apartment we don't own, and the agreement in the second drawer of your son's desk with my name in your handwriting on the signature line, committing me to $2,000 a month for 5 years. The room went deathly still. Outside, someone called to someone on the street, and the sound floated up and disappeared. Those are very serious accusations, Patricia said. They're questions. I have copies of everything. I'd like answers, I replied firmly. Ethan said my name the way he always did when trying to create a pause for renegotiation. I looked at him, at his hands flat on his knees, and noticed the complete absence of surprise on his face. You knew about the transfers, I said. Silence. Ethan, you knew, I repeated. Mom needed help after she retired, he said very quietly. I was going to tell you when, before or after I signed the loan. Before or after the equity application went through. That document was just a template. It has my name in your handwriting, I said. The loan came first, the equity application second. The agreement was the third option if the others failed. That's not a template. That's a sequence. She held my gaze. The warmth drained away, and what was underneath was something I'd never seen there before. Calculation stripped bare, and beneath it, the particular frustration of a woman whose plan had met a variable she failed to account for. You've been very thorough, she said. Yes, I said. I have. I think we should speak with attorneys before this goes further. Mine is available Monday morning. A pause. You've retained an attorney? She asked. I've been speaking with one. Yes. She turned to Ethan, a 2-second look containing the full weight of a mother and son and every accommodation he had ever made to stand inside her plans. It was not warm. She was reassigning blame because I had not folded and someone had to carry that. Did you know she had an attorney? She asked. No, he said very tiredly. She looked back at me. Everything I've done for this family. I was trying to find a solution. A solution requiring my identity and my signature, I said. The equity application was submitted in my name without my authorization. That's identity fraud. Intent doesn't change the legal category. Ethan said, Dana, I'm sorry. I looked at him, at the genuine wreckage of a man caught not in malice but in a long failure of nerve. He wasn't the mastermind, but he had been the foundation, the silence, the averted eyes, the compliant absence that made everything possible. I know you are, I said. Patricia, I said, I need the transfers reversed, the joint accounts closed, the equity application formally retracted. If we can resolve this without law enforcement, that is my preference. It is not my only option. She held my gaze for a moment longer. Then she stood, picked up her purse, looked at Ethan one final time, the look of a woman counting the next round, and walked to the door. She paused, said nothing, and stepped out. The door closed, and the apartment was very quiet. How did it all start? Ethan and I had been married for 5 years. We met at a mutual friend's housewarming party. He was an engineer, thoughtful and patient, the kind of man who remembered the little things. In the early years of our marriage, he seemed like the most reliable and decent person I had ever been close to. I loved him completely, and in hindsight, I realize I was less careful than I should have been. His mother, Patricia, was a force to be reckoned with. She was 63, a retired school principal. She carried herself with an air of authority, always impeccably dressed in a way that showed she understood the power of presentation. She would visit us regularly, bringing homemade food and making small observations about our lives, like how we should eat more healthily or that Ethan looked tired. At first, I thought her concern was genuine, but over time, I noticed how she would always address suggestions to Ethan, even when they concerned me directly. She would ask about my business, a successful graphic design studio I had built from the ground up, with an interest so careful and probing that it took me a while to realize she was cataloging my assets. Ethan's sister, Lily, was 26. She worked in fashion and had been looking for a house for over a year. The house she wanted was a charming 2-story in a nice suburb, with a price tag of $580,000. She had a down payment of $80,000 saved, but she needed a mortgage for the remaining $500,000. She had applied for the mortgage herself but was conditionally approved pending a co-signer with sufficient credit standing. One evening, I spent the afternoon preparing a special dinner. I roasted a delicious chicken, opened a bottle of wine we'd been saving for a special occasion, and set the table with our best plates. Ethan called me twice from the office, his voice warm and slightly rushed, telling me his mother was coming over and that we should make it nice. I remember thinking, this is what a normal, happy family dinner should be like. But when the plates were cleared and the wine was half gone, Patricia slid a manila folder across the table. She explained in a calm, almost matter-of-fact tone that she had taken out a $500,000 loan in her name for Lily's house purchase and that I was going to co-sign the documents before the end of the week. I was shocked. I looked at Ethan, but he just stared at the candle in the center of the table. He didn't say a word. I asked for time to think, and that night, after Patricia left, I confronted Ethan. He admitted that he had known about it for a few weeks. I was furious. He had let me set the table, cook dinner, and open the good wine, all while knowing that his mother was going to spring this on me. The next morning, I called my friend Ava, who is a lawyer. I told her everything. She warned me not to sign the loan under any circumstances. She explained that co-signing a $500,000 loan would expose my credit, my business, and my financial security to a risk I had no control over. Over the next few days, I started to dig deeper. I found strange transfers in our joint account. 6 transfers of $1,500 each over 6 weeks had gone to an account I didn't recognize. After some investigation, I found out that the account belonged to Patricia. I also discovered an application for a home equity line of credit against the apartment we rented, which was clearly a mistake or, even worse, a fraud. And in Ethan's desk, I found an envelope with my name written in Patricia's handwriting. Inside was a document stating that I agreed to contribute $2,000 a month to the family fund for 5 years. On Thursday evening, Patricia called to check in. I told her I couldn't co-sign the loan. Her tone changed slightly, but she said she understood. However, her last words, "Well, I suppose we'll have to talk about what that means for Lily's mortgage." For all of it, sent a chill down my spine. That night, I couldn't sleep. I spent hours going through our financial accounts, looking for more signs of trouble. I knew I had to be careful. Ava had taught me that it was important to find out as much as possible before confronting Ethan and Patricia. On Saturday, I spent the day at Ava's office with a forensic accountant. What we found was even worse than I had expected. There were not only the transfers to Patricia but also smaller transfers to Lily and some unauthorized charges on our shared credit card. Now, here I am, on this Sunday, facing Patricia and Ethan. After that confrontation, the $6,000 was repaid within the week. The equity application was retracted, and the agreement was voided in writing. Ethan and I went to counseling for 4 months. We're still married, but our relationship is different. It's smaller, more careful, and less innocent, but it's honest in a way it wasn't before. I check my credit quarterly now, and I'm more vigilant about my finances. I've learned that self-respect means being aware of what's going on in my life and not letting others take advantage of me. My name is mine, and my future is mine. I'm glad I finally understand that.